Welcome to the Cool Tools Show. I'm Mark Frauenfelder, Editor-in-Chief of Cool Tools, a website of tool recommendations written by our readers. You can find us at cool-tools.org. I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Kelly, founder of Cool Tools. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, it's great to be here.
In each episode of the Cool Tools Show, Kevin and I talk to a guest about some of his or her favorite uncommon and uncommonly good tools they think others should know about. Our guest this week is Thom Dunn. Thom is a writer, musician, and terrible dancer whose work can be seen on Wirecutter, Boing Boing, Upworthy, Vice, and more. He's also published fiction, plays, poetry, and comics. Thom is the singer, guitarist of the Roland High Life and a solo performer, and he really hates Don't Stop Believin'. Join the club. Thom, how are you doing?
It's a terrible song, but otherwise, beyond the existence of that song, I'm doing well in the chaos of the world today.
Yeah, thanks for joining our little powwow here on about tools, and we'd like to hear some of your favorite tools.
Sure. So, I guess one thing I can start with, as I'm speaking on it now, is my Yeti by Blue microphone, which has, as I use it more and more, I keep discovering more and more incredible features on the gain of it. As was said, I'm a musician and a writer, and when I play in a band, I use this microphone. I've used it for recording demos. I've actually used it to record as an overhead mic on a drum set for my band for our last album. And I also use it to work on my amp. And the Yeti is not the single best mic in the world, but for a USB mic with several options on it, and for about $100, it genuinely blows my mind how good this microphone is.
Yeah, it kind of looks like an old-fashioned microphone with a kind of wire screen over it. It has a nice base. It's probably about, 8 inches high or something, and it feels very solid. So it's not a small thing. It's a substantial.
No, it's
unit.
Definitely it's a hefty unit, and it's nice that it has this built-in base where you can angle the microphone, and it has that very kind of classical, like almost Elvis-y condenser mic look to it. And it's awesome that it has a base, so you can use it on your desktop. It also has a screw joint in the bottom of it, so you can attach it to a microphone base, like a mic stand, a boom mic, which is how I've, again, used it for guitar amps and for drums. And it's a solid piece of hardware, and it has 4 different built-in microphone settings on it. I'm using the cardioid setting right now, but there's also like a stereo setting that gets on both sides, which sounds great on my guitar amp or when I'm miking my acoustic guitar. It also has a podcasting style that kind of it's a bidirectional setting. So if you are sitting across from someone as opposed to over the internet, I guess.
Oh, that's cool.
To speak with someone, it's actually really cool in that way that you can just kind of record both sides of the conversation. And it has a microphone jack. It has a different gain control. I've learned how to play with the gain control within the computer as well, which is helpful for times when you have a drum set or when you have the brewery next door when things are loud. And it's nice to be able to kind of customize that option as well.
Sure.
And again, like I've used better microphones in my life overall, but for it is easily the most versatile thing. And for the price, it's like $100 to $150. This thing is phenomenal. And I work remotely full time, and in addition to writing music and my various writing projects. So I take my video conferences on the road and stuff. And this thing is a stalwart that has kept me going.
Yeah, it's really good.
Tell me about the monitor. Like, can you get real time feedback on your sound through an output that you plug a headphone into?
That's a phenomenal thing about this. It has a 1/8-inch headphone jack built into the microphone, so I can listen directly to what the microphone is hearing right now.
I find that to be really
helpful.
important. Yeah, it helps you keep your mouth at the right distance from the microphone.
Yeah, that the self-monitoring in that case is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
And I mean, I certainly could plug my headphones into my laptop, and that would be fine, probably, because I'd probably still be able to hear what's happening. But
Sometimes there's a delay
to
when
do
you
it
do
direct
that.
in this moment, right? There's a delay, and you're missing out in these certain moments. And when I'm recording with my band, we're all Apple users, and we usually use the Apple has a built-in app called Audio MIDI Setup. Even though it's not MIDI, you can use Audio MIDI Setup to create aggregate devices for recording. So we can like plug in several audio interfaces and use them all at once. So in that case, we'll use different outputs, but even then, it's really good to be able, like, I can use my aggregate output to hear how my four mics on my guitar amp sound. But then while I'm doing that, I will often plug headphones directly into the Yeti just to make sure what I'm hearing from the Yeti without having to process it through the audio interface, through audio MIDI setup and all those different steps, and just to make sure that those differences are actually paying off.
That sounds
Cool.
good. And
Really great.
Does it come with a little case so that you're on the road right now? So how do you protect it?
I keep the box, and the box has a good styrofoam mold that it came in, and I just keep that and I carry it around with me that way.
Cool.
But it is, you can easily you can unscrew it from its base and carry it around, and it's such a hefty piece of machinery that I have at times like separated the base from the microphone and just tossed it in my bag. And that's been totally fine.
Cool.
That's really great.
So your next tool, you're a writer, and you use a tool called Scrivener, which other people have used as well on the show. But tell us how you use it and what you like about it.
Yeah, I feel like whenever I talk to anyone who writes at all, I yell at them too much about how awesome Scrivener is. And a big value of it to me is how modular it is. The fact that I remember sitting down, I heard it was a cool thing, and I downloaded, and they have a free demo for it that it gives you 30 days of actual use, which is already pretty cool. That it's not just 30 days from downloading the demo, it's 30 days of actual use of it.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so if you don't use it for a day, it doesn't count against your trial.
And I think that's a really, first of all, like that as a trial format, I found that to be comforting. I was like, this is a cool company if they're saying you get 30 days of your actual life to actually use this, not 30 linear days, not 30 days in order. You get to use it for 30 different 24-hour periods.
Right.
And that was positive to me. And I remember I went through like their video tutorial, and I'm normally terrible at those things. And it was kind of overwhelming, but they stressed a lot how modular it is and how there are all these crazy features, but how you can make them work for you. And I have made them work for me, and that's a thing that I love about this program. I have ADHD in my brain, so my brain's kind of a mess anyway all the time, and a very nonlinear brain. And it's really nice when I'm working on various projects, whether I'm doing fiction or plays or articles. I can almost work piecemeal in Scrivener. I can write the pieces I want, and I can add in the research I have, the things I want to reference, and I can view them in ways that are helpful. I can view my research, my notes, while I'm also writing things simultaneously, and it lets you focus on the scene or like the moment specifically, and that's a really helpful device for me. So I can be like, this is the part of this article or story that I'm working on, and I'm going to write about it. I don't have to worry if I'm in Microsoft Word or whatever. I see the page breaks. There's the font stuff, and it's dumb, but sometimes you worry about those things and distract you. Scrivener just kind of puts it in and gives you a word count. There's no pages. There's just a word count. And I can write my scene and be like, great. Well, that scene was about 750 words. Awesome. And I can write the next scene. And at the end of the day, I can then compile it, and it gives me a ton of features, including like I can compile as ebooks, and that's great. It will output all those things for me automatically. But it's also fantastic that when I'm working on certain things, I can rearrange moments. I can take the data, take the things I've written and be like, does that scene really work there? And you can read things and combine them into folders or scenes. And I value that. For one of the novels I wrote, I had, it's set over the course of 4 days. So I had a folder for every day. And then in the folder for each day, I had a folder for each chapter. And then tearing down from there, I had each scene within the chapters. And there were certain times I was like, oh, does that scene really work there? Should I move that around? And Scrivener makes it incredibly easy for me to just click and drag the folder up in front of the other folder. And then I can read it. And then you can choose the order in which you read things and how I want to view these scenes right now. I only want to view this chunk. I want to view this entire chapter right now. And it's very easy.
And the advantage of Scrivener over, say, just using your normal folder organization in your desktop is the fact that when you are done for any moment, it compiles all of the different folders and subfolders into one document. So so it's always kind of one book, but you can look at it basically in any order that you want, and you can reassemble those in any order, but you can make it into something whole very, very quickly.
Exactly. And actually a big benefit of that to me is when Scrivener compiles, it makes these archive files that are .scriv files. And those scribs they're basically zip files that are full of like .txt files and other file types if you add in some research. And I love that I can have the Scrivener app on my iPad and my iPhone. And if I'm on the go, there are times I'm like, oh, that's what I need to do in this scene. And I can take my phone out of my pocket and I sync it all through Dropbox. And I just open, but I'm also just opening a text file. It's not overwhelming. It's not dealing with Google Docs, which is terrible at large files. I just open my phone and I'm like, great, this is the thing I wanted to add in that scene. I can just tap it out on the train and I can just tap out a scene or whatever edit I wanted. And you can make comments in line also. But yeah, like the fact that it adds all those options is really, especially when your brain is as scattered as mine is, it's a really helpful way to help to help put things together and then step back and then look at how things work in order together.
Right. You get both the very close-up detail and you get a whole view, and you can switch back and forth between those overviews and the close-ups very, very quickly. So most of the people I know who write long form, whether it's articles or books, have switched to Scrivener in some fashion.
Yeah, or even I like that you can add tags to things or label scenes, and I can when I'm editing, I can label like that scene's good. That scene I have to go back to. I know it's a hot mess. I'll go back to it later. Or I can also add tags in and say like, all right, that scene, that's all on Margie's scene or point of view. So I can then later, while I can look at the whole book that's 500 pages, I can then go back and look right through, show me everything with Margie in it. And I can track that character's progression from the start.
Mm-hmm. That seems really useful.
Yeah, I can make sure that that character, that everything tracks and everything makes sense. And it's hard to do that when you have like a huge 500-page manuscript. It's hard to do that. Right. You can just kind of cut things down and say, great, just these tiny pieces is what I'm going to look at right now. And the fact that I can do that is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I can do it from my phone or my iPad.
Kevin, I can't remember. Do you use Scrivener?
Oh, yeah. I've been using Scrivener for the last number of books that I do. Yeah, I wouldn't do a book without doing Scrivener. It's really very hard to do it just in Word or Google Docs because what Scrivener has is it has the ability to, as Thom says, is you can work into pieces, but you can also take the whole larger view very easily and you can go back and forth between those two so fast.
Yeah.
So Thom, tell us about another one of your favorite things these days.
So I'm also I'm an absolute advocate of the Chrome Messenger bag, and maybe this I can connect this to Yeti and to Scrivener in a way.
It's a Chrome brand, or is it a type of bag?
Chrome is the brand.
It's a brand, and describe the bag.
It's a one-strap messenger bag. I don't know. At some point in high school, I got really into one-strap backpacks, and I've never gone back for no reason. but they're often known as bicycle messenger bags. But I find them to be useful in every situation. They're perhaps most recognizable by their logo is a little griffin, and the backpack actually on the strap is like a seatbelt belt buckle to connect the strap. The only downside then is when people are like, "Hey, can I push your car belt buckle, your car buckle?" And I'm like, "I have my laptop in there. Thank you very much, sir."
So there are a number of companies that make messenger bags, Timbuktu and others. Why is Chrome better than the others?
I mean, having the seatbelt buckle is kind of just a fun thing, but Chrome, these bags are so incredibly resilient, and the way they have broken down the sections within the bag is remarkable. As I mentioned, my ADHD brain is quite scattered, and I think about like growing up, like I was terrible at figuring out all the things I had to bring to high school with me. Like I have to have a pen, this notebook, and my inhaler, and like I don't know all these things. And I have this tiny Scrivener bag, Chrome messenger bag. I have this tiny Chrome messenger bag. I have the smallest one they sell, and I can fit everything in there. I have all the pieces I need to fix my bike if anything goes bad in the road. I have all the medicine I need if my allergies are acting up. I have every charger and every plug I could possibly need. I just tuck into a single pocket in there. And it's phenomenal that I can fit all those things. I can fit all these things in this bag, and it's still like a 15-inch backpack.
And what is the one? Are you using the Citizen bag? Is that the bag that you have?
I think it's the Citizen. Yeah, I just got a new one, and it's as a testament to Chrome. As much as I love them, I had this Kelly Green Chrome bag I bought in 2008. And yeah, it's the Citizen messenger bag. That's what it is.
Okay.
Or I think mine's the Citizen. I had a Kelly Green one that they no longer sell. 12 years later, that thing, and honestly, it's still fine. However, I think both my wife and my mother looked at it and were like, "You have carried this thing across the entire world and gone through one too many rainstorms on your bike, and it looks like hell." And so my
That's nice. It shows that it's been used like that. I like that.
Yeah.
You pay extra for that these days.
Yeah, you do. Exactly.
It looks great, I thought, but my mother might provide like, "Merry Christmas, here's a new Chrome."
Yeah. Hang on to that old one because it'll be very, very valuable.
Exactly.
It was actually great because my wife is a theater director and runs a small professional theater company. And I think right after I got the new bag, she was directing a play, and she was like, "I think the character needs a bag." And he's kind of like he's like a nerd. He's a mathematician who also plays in a rock band. And I was like, "You can just take the Chrome that I finally am going to retire, and it's the perfect prop for your play." It's great, and I actually kind of love having this kind of smaller model too, because it in a certain way limits me on what I'm carrying in a positive. Like, again, I have all my regular stuff in there all the time, so I can, whenever I'm going anywhere, and I go places a lot, I travel a lot, and I can just grab that bag and go with it. I have everything I can ever possibly need, and the only thing I really swap out is whether I'm bringing my laptop or I'm bringing an iPad and a Bluetooth keyboard. Yeah, I love that I can take it and I can go, "Oh, I'm going to be in New York for a while. I'll just bring this and I'll have my laptop there." Or I'm going to go for a bike ride and it's be a 10-mile bike ride. I don't hurt my back too much. So I'll just throw my iPad in there, my keyboard, and I'll work on Scrivener through my iPad when I find wherever I'm going.
So Thom, tell us about your last choice, your fourth favorite tool.
My fourth favorite is the Woodrow Appalachian Dulcimer. This was when the woman who's now my wife, when we first started dating, we were at a craft fair in Vermont, and I kept hearing music. I mentioned him in the band. I write songs, and I thought it was a mandolin. I thought it was a banjo. I was like, no, I don't know what this is. And I found the guy. I met the owner of this company, and he just at that point was touring around, and he makes. I guess he used to work at Fender, and now makes this thing called the Woodrow, and it's essentially a dulcimer, but it's turned upright so you play it like a guitar. And it's 4 strings, D, A, and then a double D string like a mandolin at the top. And it's fretted in a major key, and it sounds wonderful. And I play folk music. I also play punk rock. And what I love about my dulcimer is how simple it is. Like, you cannot. It is literally impossible to play a wrong note on the dulcimer, or on the Woodrow. You can, if you're gonna really push it, you can maybe get this G sharp there and a D chord that doesn't sound so pretty, but that's like really hard to do.
But I'm familiar with this kind of tuning. I have something called a strum stick that's similar, I think.
Okay, yeah, I've seen those. And what I find cool about the Woodrow is, for songwriting, it's awesome because I tend to sometimes I'll get overcomplicated, or I'll overthink songs. I'll be like, well, how can I make this song cooler and more complicated? And on the end of the day, like, I'm a musician. I can tell when a song is interestingly composed and how, like, has cool harmonic structures. But at the end of the day, most people who listen to music don't give a crap about those things. They just want to hear a good song. And I like that the Woodrow kind of makes me keep it simple, stupid. I just I can write a song. I can be like, you know what? Does it work on a dulcimer or on the Woodrow? And does the song work on the Woodrow? And I will play that, and I can go through it and play the melody and a basic chord. And if that stands the test on the Woodrow, I know it's a decent song.
So it has a neck, it has kind of a body and a hole for the sound and strings. In what way is it different than, say, a guitar? Is it just the way that it's tuned, or is there something else? I'm a musician, so
sure. So I play guitar. Guitar's my main instrument, but I play bass sometimes. I have a mandolin I play sometimes. So what makes it different than those instruments is both the tuning and the fretting. And I think the fretting is a major thing. In music terms, in Western music anyway, that you're generally working in full steps and half steps. In a major key in Western music, you have a full step, a half step, a full step, a full step, a full step, a half step. And you can do other things in there. And sometimes you want to mess around and play notes that fall outside of the key and add some tension. And that's really cool. But I like that the Woodrow is just tuned to a major key. It's like do, re, mi, fa, so, and so on. Like it's just tuned that way, so you don't even have to mess up in the in-between notes. And that makes it really easy to kind of ground your mind as a songwriter. And there are moments certainly when you want to get things a little more complicated, but generally speaking, if you want to write a simple, decent song, it's good to keep it simple. And the Woodrow is very accessible in that way.
So if I understand, again, I'm not a musician, but if I understand it right, so the real difference between this, say, and the mandolin and a guitar would be those little metal bars on the neck. They're just placed at a different sequence, a different frequency. And
exactly.
And otherwise, the basic dynamics of it are the same. You have a sound box, you have a neck, you have the little tuning, adjusting knobs, but it's just where those fret bars are. That's the main difference.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And yeah, the fret bars. And so normally on a guitar, each fret is a half step. So on the Woodrow, because it's the major key, it breaks it down to like here are the full steps, which are 2 half steps. But yeah, so they are 2 half steps. But they just fret them as a single fret. And then when there is a half step in the key, they put that fret there. And then there also is the tuning is very simple on the Woodrow, but it is different than other instruments, than a mandolin or a guitar, where if you just strum the strings open, you're not really playing. I mean, I could describe the chord. It would be useless for me to describe it because it wouldn't mean anything to anyone, and it just sounds kind of like, okay, vague noise.
So would this be a good instrument for someone learning to play? Was this like a good first instrument?
That's interesting. I don't know is my initial answer on that, because the cool part of the Woodrow is that you can't not play a major key, therefore you pretty much can't do anything wrong. No matter what, it will sound good. It does limit you because you can only play a major chord or a major key in the key of D. So if you're trying to learn music that does limit you to a certain degree. But if you just want to like feel things out and just start to play, this is a really great way. And you'll feel good because you're playing and you're like, oh, great. I sound like I'm really good at this. I sound like I know what I'm doing. I sound like I'm fantastic and I understand how music works. And that makes it a really inspiring thing. And it makes it accessible for anyone. And if you're having like a jam session with your friends, you all agree you're playing in D, this is a really easy thing to run with.
You know, Thom, I think another way to do this, if you don't want to buy a mandolin and you have a guitar, is to do something that another one of our Cool Tools guests recommended. His name's Mino Palouse, and he told us about open G tuning on a guitar. Have you done any open tunings with your guitars?
I don't know exactly when this airs, but we are on the crux of St. Patrick's Day, and I have several shows planned where I play Irish music, and Irish music tradition is often played in dadgad tuning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's D-A-D-G-A-D, which is not quite an open tuning, but it's like a one. You have to fret one note on one string to change things, and it leaves that similar resonance. So I think because I was familiar with dadgad in the first place, it helped me like figure out the simplicity of the Woodrow. And I love to write songs similarly in dadgad, even if I don't play them that way ultimately, because it gives me a different kind of resonance. And things sound big, and it sounds like I'm doing a lot more than I'm actually doing just by like having other strings there that I'm not playing, but are all harmonically
open. It's
satisfying.
Like drone tuning, I think is the way they call it. Kind of like bagpipes, where it's just
exactly
the other ones are just accompanying whatever note you're messing with. So Thom, this has been great. I just wanted to have you share the best place where people who want to find out more about what you're into, what you're doing, your music, your writing. Do you have a URL or a social media handle you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, my stuff's pretty simple. My name is Thom Dunn. It's Thom with an H, so THOM, but I keep it simple as it's thomdunn.net. I'm at Thom Dunn on Twitter and on Instagram and SoundCloud. And you can find Thom Dunn on Spotify or my band, Roland High Life, on Spotify also.
And you were mentioning that you were going to be playing, generally, roughly, where do you play? Where in the world do you play?
Yeah, so I live in the Northeast. I split my time right now mostly between Ithaca, New York, and Boston.
Okay.
So that's when it comes to my St. Patrick's Day shows, that's where I'm mostly doing those, or from Ithaca to Boston. And then that's for like Irish music. And then when I'm playing, my rock band plays kind of, we joke that we're the Amtrak Northeast Corridor, essentially. We quite literally go from Boston to Providence to Brooklyn. And so we play all around there, and I'll play other projects. I have a Taylor Swift cover band I play in sometimes, and mostly plays in the same region.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right. Well, Thom, once again, thank you so much. And I should recommend another place you can see Thom's work is if you go to boingboing.net. Thom writes for my website there, and they're really always really interesting posts. So thanks a lot, Thom.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Thom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you guys very much. This was a blast.
Hey, everybody. It's Mark from the Cool Tools podcast. I want to thank you for being a listener to Cool Tools. And I also would like to let you know about our Patreon page. If you would like to support the Cool Tools show, as well as our video channel, the website, and all the newsletters that we do, you can go to patreon.com/cooltools. That's just one word, Cool Tools, and pledge any amount you want. You could even pledge $1 a month. Every little bit helps. We have editors, we pay for transcribing costs, we pay our reviewers. Every bit of money that you contribute goes towards supporting the show. I'd like to give a shout out to our supporters of the Cool Tools podcast. This week, I'd like to thank the following Patreon supporters: Bill Schuler, Bob Kay, Brian Pelly, Carl D. Patterson, Chad Cosby, Chris Wieland, Chris Weirstook, Craig Tooker, Dan O'Brien, Dean Putney, Donnell Cunningham, Evan Barker, Graham Medlin, Hans Riesbeck, Helen Hegedus, Jerry Kearns, Jim Lesko, Jim Spofford, John Pollock, John Burdenbaugh, Keith O., Ken Altman, Les Howard, Lauren Bast, Mock Nerd, Malton Make, Mark Goebel, Matt Gromes, Michael Douglas, Michael Jones, and Michael Pecorini. Thanks to all of you for supporting the Cool Tools Show. We really appreciate it.